Right, thank you for staying with your World on NTV this morning. We want to switch gears a bit, but retain the conversation around business. But this time around, we'd like to talk about asset leasing and management, which means if you cannot afford a certain asset that your business badly needs it, can you lease it? Can you rent it for a year, for 2 years, for 5 years, and make sure that you achieve maximum returns and divert part of the funds that you would have used to buy an asset to any other part of the business? Definitely you can. And of course, we have the right people to talk to us about asset leasing this morning. In studio, Bosiria Bogonko is the country head in Kenya for Rentco, as well as Zipporah Nyaboke. She's a business development manager. Good morning, good people. Karibuni sana. All right, let's start here because you and I know this, but there's someone who's definitely watching and they're wondering, okay, this whole asset leasing thing, what exactly are we saying? And I'll start with you, Bosiria.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to introduce who Rentco is.
Yeah.
Rentco Africa is a global financial services provider,
yeah,
with the sole aim of providing on and off balance sheet financial solutions,
yeah,
tailor-made or customized around leasing, the leasing product.
Okay.
And essentially, we operate in about 25 countries. We are locally listed here in Kenya or incorporated in Kenya.
Yeah.
We have got physical presence in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and DRC. You've got liaison footprint in Ethiopia, in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Angola, Mozambique,
okay,
to the west, Ghana, Nigeria, Togo. And our whole aim is just to ensure that this option of leasing is available to as many people as possible, both in the private and public sector,
okay,
around the continent. Just for information, in the Western world, about 60 to 65% of all businesses, including farmers and etc., actually lease their product.
So you don't have to buy something?
You don't have to buy something. And in Kenya, at the moment, we are just at about 2% penetration in terms of leasing.
So we have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go.
Okay.
So yeah, so basically that's our company, and leasing is just one of the options that we have in terms of working capital financing and value chain financing.
Okay. So what is this whole asset leasing thing?
So asset leasing is just about acquiring and utilization of an asset without initial capital outlay. Mm-hmm. So in essence, what we're trying to do is to ensure that people can be able to get the latest equipment, the maximum equipment that they want to use, yeah, without having to come and pay, let's say, 100 million. So okay, for example, a manufacturer, mm-hmm, he has to buy manufacturing equipment. If he has to pay it upfront, he'll pay 100 million shillings, 200 million shillings. So why not spread out this 100 million shillings over a period of time in a lease form? Mm-hmm. So in essence, the leasing form is such that when you use the asset in its economic life, which is normally 4 to 5 years, then at the end of it all, you have an option either to renew the lease, to buy and get a new lease for new equipment, yeah, or buy the asset from us.
So essentially, for anyone who's a layman, leasing essentially would be direct translate to like the way you would rent a house. Instead of buying a whole house, you rent this unit.
That's correct.
For a year, for a month, for weeks, that kind of thing.
That's
so
correct.
If, for instance, I run an agricultural farm where we till land and we do large-scale agriculture, can I, let's say, rent a tractor or one of those huge equipment that you use to harvest crops?
Indeed. So you can be able to lease a tractor, combine harvester, balers, even for example, greenhouses. If you're into greenhousing, you can lease a greenhouse. Okay. You can lease the fence. You can lease your office. You
can lease the fence.
Yes.
Okay. Let me just bring in Zipporah Nyaboke here. Zippy, clearly, he's spoken about that you can lease just about anything, but there are things that you can't, and there are people you can't lease to.
Yes. Well, we lease almost everything, yeah, and I want to call it, movable assets. Like, for instance, in this building, we will lease everything as long as it's an asset, other than the brick and mortar. Mm-hmm. We don't.
So we can lease this table.
We can lease this table. We can lease your glass. We can lease the equipment in this room, cables and everything. It's actually a concept that it's not like we are practicing into doing it. Mm-hmm. It's already done. You know, there's a company that's already utilizing this.
Yeah.
Furniture and fittings is what we call it. So what we don't lease is land and brick and mortar. However, we do not lease to individuals. Okay, we lease to companies, organizations, you know, by saying that is corporates, government institutions, you know, learning institutions, medical institutions, but individuals and startups we do not do. By startups, you know, we can do startups to an extent if it's a startup that is, you know, owned by an existing company.
Yeah.
Simply because, you know, the requirements for leasing are a bit, you know, stretched out. So for a startup, they'll only have registration, documentation, or statutory requirements. So things to do with financial, you know, reports they won't have. Simply because when you're doing a credit analysis, we want to, you know, to see the repayment ability. So hence, they have to have operated for at least 3 years.
So allow me to understand this. I assume I'm a big business.
Yes.
And the way a big business is, you need to have your own boardroom, one that you can bring even government leaders to come and ask them for a business opportunity, discuss opportunities and expansion and strategies, and just about anything that happens in a boardroom. But getting decent, what you'd say, decent furniture for my boardroom would mean parting with $1 million shillings for, you know, for the expansive table and the decent chairs.
Correct.
Can I hire from someone for a year and they come to my place and they think, this man is pretty much decent?
Definitely. There's a blue chip company actually that is benefiting from that product.
Yeah.
And what we did, we asked them to get a contractor of choice. So they go ahead and, you know, place a tender, and people participate, contractors, etc. They come up with a BOQ, you know, everything that is required in that building or that office. Everything by meaning carpets, equipment, laptops, servers, all of them. And then we can price through a period of 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. We can stretch to that period depending on the customer's receivables. And the payments are usually quarterly or monthly repayment depending on the receivables again.
Okay, but definitely there are different types to this types of leases. I've seen something, for instance, about sell and lease back. Just talk to us about the types that are there of lease agreements that we can negotiate with you.
Yeah. So first of all, I would just like to add a little bit here. So in the leasing program,
yeah,
it's not like hiring. Okay, it's almost the same concept. Yeah?
Yeah.
But you can't lease for a month.
Yeah.
To make economic sense.
It won't make economic sense.
It needs to be a period of between 3 and 5 years for it to make sense in the leasing sense, as it were.
Because hiring would be for things like
maybe a month
use
yes,
for
exactly.
a day or two. Yeah.
Then actually, for hiring, the person is obligated to return the equipment to the person who has hired them.
Okay.
Out. In leasing, you have an option to own the equipment at the end of the leasing period. So in essence, after the leasing period, let's say 4 years, you can pay what you call the residual value. Then you own the equipment or the asset, the furniture you bought. Okay. So there's that fundamental difference.
So I can lease this laptop, use it for 3 years. I think I've accumulated enough money. Yes. I can now buy, and I buy.
Yes. So you'll pay a small value, which is the residual value at the end of that tenure. Then you'll own the equipment. Now we'll transfer the ownership to you. But in the hiring sense, you cannot. There's no option for you to actually buy that equipment off of that person.
Okay.
So for
back
leasing,
to the types of the leases.
So you've got different leases. So of course there's an operating lease. An operating lease really simply means that we give you equipment, or you choose the equipment and you go and we buy it, we lease it to you, use it for 4 or 5 years, and then you bring it back to us. We get back the equipment and we dispose of it. Because our job, our main focus is not to own equipment, is to be able to enable people to be able to have equipment for the operations.
Okay.
Then within the operating lease, there are two forms. There's our dry lease and a wet lease. A dry lease is where you just pay rentals for usage of the equipment. But now the maintenance is upon the customer to maintain the equipment. So for example, it's a vehicle. They are responsible for them to take it to their dealer for maintenance. In the wet lease, we'll include maintenance, we'll include insurance, we'll include all sorts of things so that you just pay
and use
it.
What difference does it make? So I hire the car and she hires the same car. But for her, you're going to maintain it for her. But for me, you're not going to. What's the difference? Does it come with the amount I'm going to pay for the rentals?
Yes, of course the rentals will be different because when you get a dry lease, because we don't include the maintenance in that monthly rental, it will be slightly lower.
Yeah.
But with a wet lease, because you have included the payment for the maintenance, then it becomes slightly higher. But it means that you don't have to worry. Once you make that payment on a monthly basis, when the vehicle is due for service, We notify you, you take it to the service provider, they do the service, and then we pay the service provider.
Okay.
Then you've got other things like sale and leaseback. In the case, for example, give simple example, NTV. You've got all these things, cameras, you've got chairs, tables. Then you've found yourself in a sticky situation. Your cash flow is not very good. You decide that we buy the equipment from you, and then we lease it back to you. So in essence, you get some lump sum because you bought the equipment from you. Then now you start paying for usage of that equipment over a period of time. So that's sale and lease back.
Let's expound on that for me, because I don't understand.
Okay, so basically our solutions are to help customers with their cash flow. So you could have invested in equipment. Let's say over $1 million. But in a particular year, let's say you invested last year, you bought all these cameras, you bought all these screens. Then this year, something happens, like the pandemic happened. Therefore, your cash flow starts becoming a problem. We come and we discuss, and we agree that equipment of yours, which is pretty new, you sell it to us. So we own the equipment now. And then we lease it back to you. So you see, in that selling to us, there's a value to it, which we give you cash, which now you can be able to use to sort out your cash flow problems. Then we lease it back to you. Now you're paying on a monthly basis, slowly by slowly. Instead of incurring that huge cost, you're paying slowly by slowly. So you're getting the value of the asset in its usage.
And I think you have already begun to touch it, but maybe ZP can help us, because there's someone who's watching right now, they like the concept, but technically, what difference does it make for a business?
Well, I would love to give an example for, say, your motor vehicle, the one that you use from day to day. So, for instance, you own it right now. So if you lease it from Rentco, what that means is that I have removed all the headache from the logistics that comes with the vehicle. We have two different types of wet leases. A wet lease means I take care of service, I take care of insurance, and I can take care of fuel if it's a pure wet lease. So what you need to do as a client, you just need to sit there, be driven to your office and back, and all your other meetings. But when you're owning the car, assuming today it has broken down, that means that you'll have downtime. You will have to hire another car. That's another cost. If there's an accident, there's a lot of logistics that comes around with claims.
So it breaks down like, come on guys, your car's broken down, give me another one.
I'll give you another one, because our insurance package comes with 30 days relief car. Other than that, as Rentco, we have leased for quite a number of years. So every given month or every given quarter, we receive vehicles that have actually come back from leases. So what does that mean? Even if the 30 days from the insurance package lapses, I'm able to get your relief car from my pool cars. So that gives you flexibility. You get to, have, your full usage of the car other than buying. Also, there's a point for, corporate tax. When you lease, you get to claim corporate tax from the renters, because that's an expense. You're expensing the lease for the 4 years that you're utilizing the car. But when you own it, if it's an organization, remember, it's being booked under your balance sheet. Again, it depreciates. So all that headache comes from you. So assuming a company like a blue chip wants to hire or wants to buy 100 vehicles for their sales team, vehicles in hundreds means quite a number, quite a huge budget for the organization. Then there's the component of VAT upfront. 16% times, say, 1 billion. That's quite a lot of money for a company to invest in, especially during these times of COVID. You can't just put your investment, your cash, your capital into one project. So leasing works for organizations that look at it from that way. Again, there's some
so customers, they can use this money that would have ideally gone to acquiring hundreds of millions, acquiring these assets to perhaps anywhere
expand
in the business.
Expand or maybe refurbish their institutions, or they can get something else to do with the capital other than just investing into vehicles. What we usually say as a company, it's a motto: if it can depreciate, just lease it. Yes.
And maybe for you then, Bosire, because clearly if you look at some of this, for instance, the sugar cane factories, part of the problem why they're not coming back on their feet is because of the cost of operation. They're very high, and it comes with the issue of the machines, the cane crushers that they're using. Some of them are from the 1970s. But these are companies which are depending on government for monies for them to, like, for bailouts. Now, when the bailout comes, it's 5 billion shillings. The equipment itself alone is about to eat 4 billion shillings. Talk to us about the efficiency that would come from leasing a modern equipment and translating to, of course, better returns.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've already mentioned is that in the lease arrangement, ideally, the equipment is owned by the lessor. Therefore, at that point in time, it means that at the end of the lease period, you have an opportunity either to buy the equipment or the equipment is returned to the person who leased out to you.
Yeah.
So in the case of, like, that is a perfect example. So a sugar factory now, like for example Miwani or Muhoroni, they should dispose all that old equipment that is from the 1960s and go the leasing way. Now, if you arrange for them a five-year lease, it means they'll have the most latest equipment to operate their sugarcane crushing production. And at the end of the 5 years, if the equipment is still reasonably well, we can extend the lease, or they pay the residual value and continue using it. Secondly, this equipment comes in bits and pieces. So along the way, if one of the equipment becomes obsolete, it is easy to isolate that equipment, remove it from that lease, get a new one and replace it, and then you continue the operations on a new lease for that specific equipment. So you can withdraw something. For example, you've got all these 10 equipment, you can get one off 3 years later, get a new one because this one has become obsolete, and continue with the lease. So at that point in time, then they'll be able to either be able to get money from the equipment that they're leasing. So they haven't put money at the beginning. They're actually getting that rental from the operations.
Okay.
Yeah. So that saves you a lot in terms of your investment and in terms of how you be able to manage your cash flow and your budgets on a monthly basis.
Okay. Yeah. But we've also seen government go very huge on this issue of leasing.
Yes. So government also the same thing. Once upon a time, they sat down and realized that they are wasting a lot of money in terms of maintenance. If you go to the government yards, there are millions of vehicles broken down because they don't have maintenance.
They're always in the yard.
They're always in the yard, yeah. So around 2006, they sat down and decided, no, I think we need to look at something else in terms of getting more efficiency out of our fleet because it's very big. And then in 2010, they came up with the leasing policy. It was floated, and the parliament passed it, and they passed all the contract conditions that are required. And in 2014, they did a test phase with the police because the police is the largest consumer of motor vehicles. Yeah.
And every time you go there, you find a very old, Land Rover that's supposed to.
Exactly. So a long time ago, there used to be, you buy a vehicle and then now you don't have money to service it. Yeah. You don't have money to fuel it. You don't have money to change the tires. So the leasing arrangement is such that all these things are included in that rental that you pay. They pay every month. Therefore, there is no way a policeman can tell you that they don't have fuel. Their vehicle has broken down. Because even the contract indicates very clearly that each OEM must have a service center within 50 kilometers of each police station. So it means even if you're in Lokichar and your Land Cruiser breaks down, they have no problem. They know either Toyota will send a helicopter to get it, or we have got a service center in close by. So the efficiency has improved because now there's no lag time in terms of looking for maintenance, in terms of there's no fuel, there's no spare parts, there's no tires.
Okay, and come to think of it, but I have not seen a very old police Land Cruiser in a while. No. Maybe that's the secret.
No.
But really, Zippy, then the challenge. Let's go back to institutions for now, because sometimes I want to lease the tractor, and I want to lease the car, and I want to lease the pickup, for instance. And all these things, one is with the Vonda X, which is Bosire. The other person who's selling the tractor is you, and another person is selling the other equipment that I want to lease. What happens now? Because it means I have to negotiate with literally every other vendor for a leasing agreement.
Well, it does work like that, yeah. So as a customer, we understand that you'll have various needs. So we look upon you to select a supplier of choice. What that means, because today I can't dictate what kind of car you'll drive, what kind of laptop you'll use. So you have to first narrow down your specifications, then point out, I will need this brand of vehicle. From there, I'll approach the supplier for quotations. So that is for asset 1. Asset 2, the same thing. Asset 3, the same thing. So at the end of the day, I'll have 10 assets with their prices, then I'll price and send you a contract with the accumulated
so
assets.
one agreement, different vendors?
Can have 100 vendors.
Okay.
Yeah, because you see, with vendors, other than going back for maintenance, it's just a one-off transaction.
Yeah.
I pay them, then the lease commences with you.
So I can go to a tech shop and get my laptop, and go to a Toyota and get a car, and then go to another company and get a milling machine, and tell you, you know what, I've picked all these 3 items.
Yes.
Go see the 3 of them and work out a leasing agreement for all of them, and I pay once.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. But what happens to who insures these products, because they can break down during the process? Insurance
is done by Rentco, and that is because we have quite a number of assets. We have a huge portfolio, so claims are easily done by us, and we make sure that the asset is up and running until the lease matures, because we leave the customer to insure the asset. There's that chance of them not insuring, so we want to be in control of our asset at any given time. Okay. And we have the best rates in the market.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. But there's something I saw somewhere about lease to learn. What exactly does that mean?
So lease to learn is just a product that we created to enable university students to be able to own laptops.
Oh.
Especially in this time of COVID, when schools were closed, you had online learning. At university, when I was in university, we used to get a small boom, but it was like maybe 5,000 shillings. For me to buy a laptop, which is 50,000 shillings, it's very difficult.
And I'll tell you, it was very painful, by the way, to go to school and find everyone else has a laptop and you don't have one.
Exactly. So what we have done is that we are working with the universities, in essence, to give the students an opportunity to own a laptop. So if a laptop is 50,000 shillings, for example, instead of paying for it upfront like you do normally, through the university, you pay, like, let's say, 2,000 shillings a month for 3 years. So in the period of time you're in the university, you'll pay 2,000 shillings. At the end of that 3 years, you'll own that laptop. Okay. It's yours. So in the course of time, in the university, you're also using the laptop to learn.
Okay.
Whether it's online, whether it's Googling, whether it's preparing your reports or your term papers.
So do you partner with the specific universities, or if I'm a student, how do I get to partner with you individually?
No. So like we said before, we don't work with individuals, we work with institutions. So we partner with the university because it's easy for the university to be able to manage its own students. So for them, it will be easier, let's say, to add the 2,000 shillings on the school fees of the students. So
have you onboarded some of these universities yet?
Yes, like African Arizona University, KCA, and we're working on the other private universities essentially before we go to public, because the public one is a bit more complicated in terms of you have to go through the ministry, then you have to go through the Senate, then you have to go through, it's a bit longer. The private university is very direct. Once you get to the VC and they sends you to the DVC or finance, it's very easy, straightforward. Okay.
And someone actually wants to know, by the way, because you see with the university loan, sometimes you come back and they tell you it's triple, there's been an interest of 4% every year and all that. We have such hidden charges with this facility?
For leasing, if you're told it's 2,000 shillings a month, you'll pay the 2,000 shillings a month for the period of the tenure. Even for the vehicles, if you're told it's 100,000 shillings a month, it'll be 100,000 shillings a month from day one to the end of the tenure. Okay. There's no time it changes.
Okay, but the retail sector has also gone into large into this. You would agree with me, is it?
Yes, for sure. And we've done quite a number of supermarkets. I may say the list goes all the way to 10. And as I said earlier, we list everything in a building other than brick and mortar. So that doesn't sideline the retail market.
So you can lease the trolley?
We have. We have leased the trolleys.
Okay.
We have leased the shelves and, the fridges, the PDQs where the cashier sit, the chairs, literally everything other than the structure. The skeleton is what we don't, and the land that the skeleton sits on.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Wonderful. We've also seen this in the medical sector largely, but it's been a bit controversial in Kenya because you're trying to acquire an equipment of 50 million shillings. County governments are there. Health is now devolved. They're struggling with all these things. Agriculture is also devolved. We probably need to see more of this in the devolved units.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, the devolved units depend on the exchequer to give them cash, and they have to budget for it. So instead of budgeting to buy that equipment, which is very expensive, why don't you just lease? Because if you think about it, a standard hospital will have to have X-ray machines, will have to have cancer screening machines, will have to have equipment in the surgery department. This equipment is very, very expensive. And if you go the leasing way, it will become easier for each and every hospital in this country to be able to get a piece of equipment that will help the local community.
Okay, so now you've leased this car for me, and it's a pickup. It's a pickup truck. But halfway I realize I like to use it to carry vegetables and all that. It means I have to sort of design it in a way. How does it work with the agreement now? Because it means I have to take it to Grogon, the Juakali guys put some metals in. Can I customize it?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
You can customize a pickup, but we require you to give us your specifications, as earlier said. You give us specifications of how you want your pickup to come to you. So if it comes bare, like just the standard pickup from, say, Toyota Kenya.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want it to have body. You want it to have tinted windows and all other things. So I have to price that in the schedule. If you don't come early in advance, that means you will still go and customize your pickup the way you want it.
Yeah.
But there are return conditions.
Yeah.
Upon returning the asset to us after, say, 3 years or 4 years, you have to make sure that you return the asset the way I delivered it to you.
Okay.
So you have to remove all the accessories that you had put.
Okay.
Especially if there are things that, like the things that are not acceptable.
Okay. But there's something called wear and tear sometimes. So if we've agreed the lease is 500,000 shillings per year. But going forward, there's the efficiency of this asset that I'm using is starting to drop. Is there going to be a change? Are you going to charge me more, charge me less with the payments for the rentals?
So the payment can only be charged more if you go excess mileage. So normally the period of the lease already covers for that wear and tear. In essence, that amount of money that you are charged per month essentially already covers for that wear and tear. So we already anticipate that at the end of the tenure, the vehicle will come in a certain state, which is acceptable and agreeable between the two of us.
Okay.
Yeah. So in terms of the monthly rentals, they do not change. Unless now you go over excess mileage. So there's always a clause about excess mileage.
Yeah.
So if you have, for example, indicated that you on average will do about 160,000 kilometers in that 4-year period, but you do 200,000.
Yeah.
There's an extra 40,000 there which needs to be charged. That is clearly indicated in the contract, and you'll be charged if you go up above that agreed upon mileage.
Okay,
Yeah.
So we definitely have to close this conversation, but I'm sure you guys are the biggest name in this asset leasing thing. But definitely there are other players. Why should I consider Rentco?
Because we are innovative, we are trendsetters, and our pricing is designed to ensure that you, as a customer, can feel the benefit of actually leasing a vehicle.
Okay.
Last but not least, we of course lease everything and anything. So most of the other players you'll find are either attached to an OEM, therefore they can only lease a vehicle, or their portfolio of leasing is very small. As we lease everything other than the building and land.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I wanted to, as we close this conversation, just touch on something I saw you guys doing in the sports industry very well. Just comment on that.
Well, we recently sponsored the basketball games for men, and the last one that was concluded for the women, they are Lioness, and we want to congratulate them to win. That was powered by Rentco, and Mr. Bosire here, he's a retired professional basketballer. Yeah, so there's so much love in our company for the game, and like half or 90% of the Rentco male, at some point they've played basketball, starting with our CEO. So maybe Mr. Bosire will wrap it up. Okay,
but do you see any opportunities to in the sports industry for leasing and all that?
Yes, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of equipment we can lease. Gym equipment, for example, is a simple thing that we can lease out. And I think for us as a company, we are really into culture, sports, and art. And therefore, as a result, we have gone into many sponsorships in terms of sports. Even at the moment, we're doing one with the NMG for their golf circuit, which is an opportunity for us to be able to interact with our customers and also interact with the NMG in terms of building business and just enjoying the sport.
Good people, we've run out of time. I'm giving you 30 seconds each for your closing remarks. Let's start with ZP.
Okay, yeah, so thank you, Victor, for hosting us. And what I'll tell corporates out there, customers, SMEs, is that if an asset can depreciate, and if you're having cash constraints, kindly look at the leasing model, because leasing is a bit different from hire purchase. Leasing does not attract, outlay, cash deposits and all that. So you just...
Yeah, for me, I'll say thank you very much. And Rentco is a place to be when you want to lease. Because of our vast experience and product portfolio, we can be able to solve all your cash flow problems. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. That's why we wrap it up this morning. If you've been watching this conversation and you've been wondering how you are going to continue using that asset, which has of course become less efficient, you can actually lease it instead of buying it. But you can only do that as an institution, not a startup that began yesterday. That's what we leave it this morning. I've been your host, Victor Kiprop. On behalf of the entire team, it's goodbye for now. But of course, many thanks to my guests for this last part of the conversation. That is Bosire Bogonko, is the country head for Rentco in Kenya, as well as the business development manager for Rentco, that is Zipporah Nyaboke. Goodbye for now. Tomorrow, we will be back with yet another exciting discussion from 7 a.m. and we will be talking to young legislators and other aspiring young leaders about the youth and leadership. Let's keep watching.